Capture One has just released a new version, or they are about to release a new version, which they fixed one of the biggest issues we had with Capture One. A couple of weeks ago, I made a video about the 3 flaws I found in Capture One that was affecting my workflow a little bit. Exactly 1 week after I posted that video, they released this new update. And we are going to talk about it in this video. Let's have a look and see how they did it and if there is any room for improvement or what do I think about it. I'm gonna put it into its place and see how this new feature works. Basically what they did in this new update, the biggest improvement, now we are able to combine masks and we are going to test it out right now. This is a beta version of the Capture One, and if you want to test it out, you can also download this beta version and test it out for yourself, but be mindful, install it in another directory and don't upgrade your existing catalog or sessions with this beta version. Okay, let's have a look at this image. I did some small adjustments to this image. Image was a little bit underexposed. I created a mask layer for this flower. And in this layer, I just increased the saturation and a little bit of contrast. First thing, we are going to create an empty layer, copy the mask from the subject layer, and then I'm gonna invert that mask, right click on this and invert it, and let's rename it to BG. Now we have the background selected, and here is the selection. What I'm gonna do is to expose down the background to make it darker and also reduce the contrast and maybe reduce the clarity in the background. Now, I want to create a sense of light that comes through the upper corner of this image, and the background is too dark, and the reason I made the background too dark because I want to add some light coming back to this image from the top corner. So let's do that by creating a new layer. I'm creating a new empty layer and let's call it Spotlight. And right now we are going to copy the mask from the background layer. I'm going to intersect that mask with a radial gradient. So this is the biggest improvement in my opinion. Now we have an option to intersect different masks. This is huge. I like that because previously you could add some masks using different tools and you could subtract with the erasers. But now we have an option to intersect some masks together. So by the way, if you look at the layer and mask tool here, you see we still have the refine mask button here, but they replaced the luminosity mask with something that's called combined masks. If I click on this one, it opens this drop down and here you can select an operation you want to perform. In this case, I want to make an intersection between the background mask I already have. The operation is intersect. I'm going to select the radial gradient and then hit the create mask. Now, look what's happened. If I hit M, I have a radial gradient that is only affects the background because we have the background selection. Now we intersect with this radial gradient. Okay, perfect. That's what I want. Now I'm gonna make it big, soft, and out of the frame, and I'm gonna increase the exposure. So this is the direction of the light we had in the image. I felt that we have to enhance it. That's why I made the background too dark so I can brighten up just this part of the image. Now let's turn it on and off and see how it looks. Here is before the spotlight. Here is after. Here is before all of my adjustments. Here is after. And if I go back to the spotlight layer and select this gradient, you see that I can move the light spotlight here and it doesn't affect the foreground flower. Perfect. Now, we had these options in Lightroom for years, but now we have it in Capture One, so that's great. Let's move on to the next example. In this image, I did apply a basic adjustment to this image. I selected here is the mask or the road. I used the AI select tool here. Now I'm gonna add this piece of boot to this selection. To do that, we are using combined mask. This time I'm gonna select add, and let's try with the AI select again and create a mask and select this part. So here we have this selection. Now the road has extra layer inside. Why do I do that? I don't know. We could just do it without create combine. We just add to this mask using the AI select here. So I can add anything to this selection if I want without going to combine mask. But anyway, that's not what we are going to try this feature, right? So let's do it. Let's disable the mask, hitting M on the keyboard, exposure, and again increasing saturation, and maybe actually darken down the path a little bit. Maybe add contrast here. So that's nice. Now, what I want to test here is something else actually. Previously, if you want to create, let's say, custom vignette, you use linear gradient to darken down one side of the image, and you want to do the same for the other side of the image with another linear gradient. You could not do that. Or you could do it but just duplicating the layer and move the gradient to the other part, then you will have two different layers. And if later you want to change the amount or adjust the parameters in one, you had to do it again in the other one as well. Now we can do it all in one layer. So let's create a new layer and select the linear gradient, the top part of the image with the soft and big linear gradient, and darken down the top part, maybe add some contrast as well. Now here we're going to create another linear gradient for the bottom part, and to do that, let's go to the combine mask again. Make sure you select the right operation, because by default it always select the intersect. So now we are going to add another mask, so we are going to select the add, hit on the linear gradient and create another one in the bottom. Move it out of the frame a little bit. Now you see inside this layer I have two masks. One is this adjustment, top one, that I can adjust separately, and then I have this new one that is in the bottom. Yeah, now we have it. We have both linear gradients inside one mask. So if we hit the M, you see that we have two parts of the image selected with two different linear gradients. Excellent. And now we can adjust the amount together, so they work together. They are on the same layer. Let's go to another example and test something else. Now let's have a look at this image. I just did a small adjustment to this image again, and we are going to create a mask for the foreground and the field here. I'm going to use big soft linear gradient. I want to work only on the ground. I don't want to affect the sky. So we are going to use subtract. And this time maybe I want to use magic brush to remove these colors or these tones from this selection. But unfortunately, we don't have it here in these mask tools that we have inside the combine mask. That's weird. I don't know why they haven't added that one to this list here. So I cannot use it. I have to find another way to do that, and I found a way actually, but I'm gonna show you in a second. But let's do something else now. Let's select the AI select instead. That's what we can do. Make sure that we are selecting the sky and removing the sky from the selection. Okay, perfect. And maybe these three as well. Let's remove these ones from the selection as well. It's not perfect. We have some leftovers here, but that's okay. I'm not doing too much adjustment to this layer, so that's okay. Now let's see. If I go back to the adjustment layer here that contains the linear gradient, you see that I can move it around without affecting the sky. And that's what we expect to have, which is good. And I can rename the main layer to something like field, but unfortunately I cannot rename the masks inside this layer. That would be nice if we could rename this one, because one caveat I found is that if you don't name them correctly, you might forget what type of mask was used to create this one later on when you have different many layers, and then when you come back to the edit later, maybe you might forget what was that. And by default you cannot see which of these masks you have used to create this one. So if I'm on a different type of mask tool selected here and I come to this layer, I cannot move it, and when I click here it says, do you want to rasterize it? And that's not what I want. I want to move it around. I don't know what it is, and if I move it, this circle here, you see that I moved the whole mask, and this is not what I want. So this part is a little bit vague and needs to be improved, but you need to remember exactly which mask did you use. In this case, linear gradient, and then you can adjust and move it around. So this is one caveat that I found so far. Okay, let's do something here. Hide the mask and decrease the exposure, increase the contrast and saturation. Maybe brightness I will add, and maybe make it a little bit warmer as well. Now let's create another layer. Now I fix the name of this previous layer, create a new layer, and I'm gonna create linear gradient again on the top. Make the top darker and reduce the saturation, maybe increase the contrast. Nice, but I have a very dark corner here that I want to fix, so I want to remove that part from the selection. Therefore, we are going to use combine mask, use subtract, and use the brush tool here. Hit on the create mask and increase the size of the brush, reduce the flow. The other problem we have here is if I overdone this one, there is no way I can reduce the opacity of this new mask. If I reduce the opacity, I will reduce the opacity of the layer altogether. So it's not just this mask, it's a whole layer with all of the masks combined together. So far, two caveats to this one. And let's go to the next image where I want to show you a trick I found to fix something in this image. I want to select this flower. One way to make a selection in Capture One is using colors. If you didn't know, I have made a video about some tricks in Capture One that you can watch it, and I showed some of the tricks that you can use in Capture One. One of them is to create a selection based on colors. To do that, we're using color editor. You have to go to Advanced tab and then select the colors that you want, in this case red, and then click on these three dots on the color editor tool and select create mask layer from selection. Now Capture One will create a mask for us based on the color range that we have selected here, and here is the new layer called color range mask 1, and if I hit M, you see that it has selected all the reds, including these on those reeds and grass here, which I don't mind. I will leave it there, but it's a pretty good selection for this flower. What we are going to do to fix the colors, because I changed the white balance in this image and made this flower a little bit yellow, I want to bring it back to the colors in original colors. Now I think that the field become too bright. I want to create a mask for the background like what we did before, and try to make it darker and add some vignette and stuff like that. So to do that, I'm gonna create a new empty layer to use linear gradient for that. I'm gonna create a linear gradient for the background and gonna darken down the background. Hit M to hide the mask. As you can see, I'm affecting the flower as well. And now I want to remove it from this mask. What I want to do is to use the already created mask that we have here and import that mask from another layer into this combined mask. Let's see if we can do that. Well, I'm going to select the subtract, but there is no way I can import mask from another layer. So here is the trick I found. You can combine it with the brush and create mask from brush. It's ready to have some mask in it, but there is no mask yet. And then we are going to this brush layer or mask and right click on it, and now you can copy mask from any layer that you already have. So now with that trick we have a mask which is not affecting the flower. In this case it was easy. I could use AI select as well to remove it from the selection, but sometimes you have a complicated mask that you created with different masks combined together, and some time you have spent to create a perfect mask or something, and if you want to combine it, use it the same mask in a new layer, this is the way you can do it. So now we have this gradient that is not affecting the flower. If you can see, if I darken it down completely, you can see it's not affecting the flower, which is great. I also want to darken down the sides a little bit, so we are going to combine mask again, select add, linear gradient, create mask, add another linear gradient here, create mask, and do the same. Let's select the add again, make sure we have selected linear gradient, create a new mask and put one on this side as well, but this time we're going to make it big and push it out. So here the whole masks that we have selected, and now I'm gonna subtract with the radial gradient, create a mask and make a big soft radial gradient where the flower is. So if I turn off this layer and turn it on, this is off, you see how it affects the field without affecting this part of the image. Okay, wasn't the best example of how you can do stuff with the combined mask, but it gives you an idea of a trick that I found. So let's go to another image. Let me show you what I've done to this image so far. This image is from my beautiful boy playing with sand, and we have two other person in the background which I removed, and I also brighten up his shirt a little bit. That's all I have done to this image, with a little bit of adjustment to the white balance, I guess. But now we are going to work on the background, and here is another trick I found with this combined mask, which is very cool. It's actually a feature, I think. So let's create a new mask. So this time I'm going to use the background selection. So hit on the background. It's going to find person in the image and creates a mask for me. Here is a very nice selection of the background. What I want to do with this one is to darken down the background and add some contrast to make him pop a little bit. Now, what I didn't want to do is to darken down the sand, this bird here, sand bird. So we're going to subtract it with the mask. I'm gonna use AI select mask, and let's see if we can select it. Create mask. Now we're going to select the bird. Here's a good selection, I think. It's brilliant. Capture One can find this shape, which is very close in colors and hues with the background sand on the ground, and you could select it. It is amazing. Now we have removed this bird, but if look at this, when I darken down the background, it's not a perfect selection. I want something softer and more refined, and I want to use refined mask. But here is good news. You don't need to refine the background selection, because I don't want to make the edges around him fuzzy, but I want to do it only on this selection. So we are going to select the AI select layer or mask and click refine mask here, and let's see how it does that. Now I increase the radius, and we have a very good selection. You see all the sky parts and everything between the sand particles have been selected. Of course, I have done it, I pushed it too far on the exposure, but here we go. This was so easy, very quick to fix this image with a few layers and adjustments. Originally, when I played with this one, I also worked a little bit on him to make him pop a little bit more, bring up some shadows and work on the skin tones as well. But we are not going to waste your time on that, so let's move on to the last example where I want to show you another thing. Let's have a look at this beautiful sunset image that I have here. Here's the raw image, and this is with a little bit of adjustment. Here is our starting point for this image. Now, what I want to do is to fix the sun overexposed here. For that, I'm going to create a new empty layer using the radial gradient, and with the big soft radiant gradient around the sun, I want to create glow effect here. Let's hide the mask, and I'm going to warm it up. In this section, increase the highlights, and in the levels I'm gonna bring up the black points, and we can reduce the clarity as well. Maybe you can use dehaze as well if you want, just to make it soft. Now we are affecting everything. I want to combine this with luminosity mask. I don't want to affect everywhere at the same amount. I want to make it less affected, the dark part of the clouds and the ground, so it's more around the brightest part of the image. So before we had this luminosity mask here that you could use, but now we have to use it inside this combined mask. So this one, Luma range, is now lives inside the combined mask, and we want to use the intersection for sure. So everything is correct, so we are going to click on create. I want to affect the highlights, but I don't want to affect the shadows. So let's remove the shadows from the selection, hide the mask, and see how it works. I think it's good. Let's leave it at that and call this layer glow. Turn it on and off and see how it is. So if I want to adjust the layer, I can select the radial filter and adjust this. For the Luma range, we do have modify option, so you can see there is a modify option here. If I click on that one, it will bring up the Luma range panel again, so we can adjust that, which is great. So this is a bonus that we still have access to the Luma range options. We can modify that. Perfect. Now we are going to create new layer. I'm gonna darken down the top of the image to bring out some of the rain shapes in the over this cloud. So I'm gonna expose down on this one, add some contrast and clarity to bring out the shapes. And now we are going to remove this glow. Here I'm going to use subtract and again this technique that I've showed you before. So I'm gonna select a brush, create and in this brush I'm gonna import or copy the mask from the glow. Now let's have a look. So this time if I go back and adjust the glow here, it doesn't affect this one because this mask is already created. If I do that, then I have to go back here and copy from this new glow layer that I already adjust or modify. So I guess that covers the most part of this tool that we have now inside Capture One, or soon we will have it in Capture One. I think this is a great upgrade from before. So they have fixed one of the biggest issues we had with Capture One. Now, what do I think about this upgrade? I want to talk to Capture One for a second, but you can help me as well if you watch the video all the way through and share it as much as you can. Then it will finally reach Capture One. I want to say thank you to Capture One for adding this feature. I have some ideas and suggestions that I would like to share with you before you release the actual version. When you use this combined mask, it would be nice if we have an option to turn the individual mask on and off, or even better if you could adjust the opacity of them. It gives us a little bit more flexibility with this new awesome tool that we can reduce the amount of each mask or at least turn it on and off. The other thing is, please add this magic brush to this combined mask. It could be a technical issue, they didn't do that. I don't know what's the reason, but if it's possible, please add it to the list of the tools that we have in the combined mask. And the third suggestion is that each time we use a mask to create a new mask to combine with the others, put the icon of the mask that we used, for instance brush or radial gradient or linear gradient, next to the name of this new mask. Then the user can easily recognize what type of tool or masking tool they use later on when they come back to the edit sometime later and they want to adjust it, so it doesn't get very confusing. So thank you again for giving us this option. So out of 3 flaws I mentioned in this video, now 1 is fixed, 2 more to go. Thank you. And for everyone, thank you so much for watching this video. If you are interested in learning more about layers and how you can use layers in Capture One, I have a video for you. You can watch after this one. Thank you so much. Until next video, take care and bye.